Max slouched deeper into his threadbare armchair, the springs groaning in protest beneath him. The holographic screen flickered with the usual mundane drivel, political squabbles, economic woes, and the ever-present threat of space debris re-entering the atmosphere. He sighed, running a hand through his perpetually disheveled hair. Just another Tuesday, or so he thought. Suddenly, the broadcast was interrupted by an emergency alert. A stern-faced anchor, with hair so perfectly coiffed it looked like a helmet, appeared on the screen. Her voice, usually a soothing drone, was laced with urgency. Breaking news, the Galactic Council has just passed a new interstellar law affecting all Earth citizens. Every human male is now required to marry 2 alien wives. This mandate goes into effect immediately. Max blinked, certain he'd misheard. He fumbled for the remote, turning up the volume. Distribution centers are being set up across the globe. All eligible bachelors are urged to report to their nearest center as soon as possible to be matched with their new alien brides. Failure to comply will result in... The anchor's voice faded as Max's mind raced. 2 alien wives. It sounded like something out of a cheap Hollywood. Exotic, beautiful extraterrestrials vying for his attention. The images that flashed through his mind were straight out of a pulp magazine: green-skinned Orion slave girls, lithe Venusian dancers, and ethereal beings from galaxies unknown. He leaped to his feet, nearly sending his half-empty mug of lukewarm synth coffee flying. "This is it," he exclaimed to his empty apartment. "My chance for adventure, romance, and, well, more romance." He barely paused to grab his worn leather jacket before dashing out the door. He sprinted down the street, dodging hover scooters and bewildered pedestrians. The nearest distribution center was only a few blocks away, but he couldn't risk missing out on the prime selection of alien babes. As he ran, Max's mind whirled with possibilities. Would his wives be Amazonian warriors from a planet with perpetual sunlight, or perhaps shy, intellectual scholars from a nebula of pure thought? He grinned, picturing himself walking down the street, a gorgeous alien on each arm, turning heads and inspiring envy. Rounding the final corner, Max skidded to a halt. His jaw dropped. A line of men stretched for blocks, snaking around the corner and disappearing into the distance. All were queued up outside a hastily erected prefab building with "Alien Bride Distribution Center" emblazoned across the front in garish neon lettering. "No, no, no," Max muttered, joining the back of the line. He bounced on his heels, craning his neck to see how quickly things were moving. The line inched forward at a glacial pace. Hours crawled by. The sun climbed high in the sky, beating down on the waiting men, then began its slow descent. Max's initial enthusiasm waned, replaced by growing impatience and discomfort. His stomach growled, his feet ached, and he could feel a sunburn blooming on the back of his neck. Still, he waited. The thought of alien romance kept him going, fueled by the dwindling embers of his earlier excitement. He fantasized about escaping Earth's drudgery and finding a new life among the stars, surrounded by adoring alien women. Finally, as twilight settled over the city, casting long shadows across the street, Max reached the front of the line. A bored-looking official, his face etched with weariness, waved him forward. The air inside the prefab building was stale and smelled faintly of ozone. "Name," the man droned, not looking up from his datapad. "Max Thompson," he replied eagerly. "I'm here for my alien wives." The official tapped at his screen, his brow furrowing slightly. "Thompson. Thompson. Ah, yes. I'm afraid all of our more conventionally attractive candidates have already been claimed." Max's heart sank. "What? But I've been waiting all day." "Yes, well, you should have gotten here sooner," the man said, his voice devoid of sympathy. He gestured toward a door at the back of the room. "You can choose from our remaining candidates through there." Next. Deflated but still hopeful, Max entered the indicated room. His eyes widened in horror. The candidates were unlike anything he had imagined. In one corner, a mass of writhing tentacles oozed across the floor, leaving a trail of glistening slime. Nearby, what appeared to be a sentient boulder with glowing cracks for eyes rumbled ominously. A gelatinous cube quivered in greeting, its surface rippling with unsettling patterns. There must be some mistake, Max stammered, backing toward the door. I was expecting, sexy alien babes. A nearby blob gurgled in what might have been offense. I'm sorry, sir, the official called from outside, his voice echoing in the cavernous room, but the law clearly states you must choose 2 wives. If you refuse, you'll face steep penalties. Max's mind raced, searching for a way out of this nightmare. Penalties? What kind of penalties? Fines? Imprisonment? Forced labor on a space mine? He shuddered at the thought. I need some time to think, he blurted, darting out of the room. He leaned against the wall, catching his breath. This was not how he had imagined his grand space romance playing out. Suddenly, a commotion erupted near the entrance. A group of exotic-looking alien females had burst into the distribution center, causing a stir among the waiting humans. They were unlike anything Max had seen before, vibrant colors, intricate patterns, and a palpable aura of energy surrounded them. There he is, one of them cried, pointing a tentacle in Max's direction. It's the famous Max Thompson. Max blinked in confusion. Famous? Me? The aliens surged toward him, a kaleidoscope of colorful appendages and shimmering skin. They crowded around him, chattering excitedly in a variety of languages he couldn't understand. A statuesque blue-skinned beauty with iridescent scales pushed to the front. Oh, Max, we've traveled across the galaxy to meet you, she exclaimed, her voice like a gentle chime. Your reputation as Earth's most eligible bachelor is known throughout the cosmos. It is. Max stammered, both bewildered and intrigued. A smaller, imp-like creature with glowing antennae piped up, oh yes. Your achievements are legendary. They say you once arm-wrestled a Kthar battle beast and won. Max opened his mouth to protest, but another alien chimed in before he could speak. And is it true that you single-handedly saved an entire planet from a supernova using only a paperclip and a ball of string? This came from a willowy being composed entirely of swirling mist. Well, Max began, but was cut off once again. Enough talk, declared a robust, four-armed female with skin like polished bronze. I claim this human as my mate. No. He's mine, shrieked the blue-scaled beauty, shoving her rival. In moments, the aliens were embroiled in a full-scale brawl, each trying to stake their claim on the bewildered Max. Tentacles flailed, antennae sparked, and the air filled with alien curses and guttural growls. The human men in line scrambled back, trying to avoid getting caught in the crossfire. Max backed away slowly, his head spinning. This was not at all what he had expected when he'd rushed out of his apartment that morning. He had envisioned romance, not a free-for-all brawl over his affections. As the melee intensified, a slimy, three-headed creature that looked like a cross between an amoeba and a jellyfish oozed toward Max. All 3 heads smiled creepily. Hello, handsome, it gurgled in triplicate. How about a kiss? Max yelped, dodging the creature's attempt to engulf him in a gelatinous embrace. He stumbled backward, crashing into something solid. Turning, he found himself face to face, or rather, face to knee, with an enormous centipede-like alien. Greetings, potential mate, the creature chittered, its countless legs undulating in what Max belatedly realized was some sort of courtship dance. Shall we engage in the ritual of 1,000 steps? I left my dancing shoes at home, Max stammered, inching away. He scanned the room desperately for an escape route. The brawl had only intensified, with more aliens joining the fray. The distribution center staff seemed to have given up on maintaining order and were cowering behind their desks, shielding themselves with datapads. Just when Max thought things couldn't get any crazier, a booming voice cut through the chaos. Enough. The fighting stopped abruptly. All eyes, and various sensory organs, turned toward the source of the command. Floating serenely above the crowd was a being of pure energy, its form constantly shifting and sparkling. When it spoke again, its voice reverberated with power. Max Thompson of Earth, it intoned, your reputation has reached even the highest echelons of galactic society. I am Zanara, Empress of the Cosmic Confluence, and I have chosen you as my consort. Max gaped at the radiant being. I'm flattered, he managed to squeak out. Zanara's luminous form pulsed with what might have been amusement. You need not decide immediately, my dear. I understand this must all be quite overwhelming for your primitive human mind. Hey! Max protested, momentarily forgetting his awe. The Empress continued, unperturbed, I shall give you 1 Earth week to prepare yourself. Then, you shall accompany me to my palace among the stars, where you will rule by my side for all eternity. With that pronouncement, Zanara vanished in a flash of dazzling light, leaving behind a stunned silence. Max stood frozen, his mind reeling. This morning, he had been a nobody, a drone in the vast machinery of Earth society. Now, he was apparently the most sought-after bachelor in the galaxy, with an empress vying for his hand in marriage. It was the ultimate rags-to-riches story, except the riches were measured in cosmic power and the rags were, well, still his threadbare armchair and lukewarm synth coffee. The spell of silence broke as the other aliens resumed their squabbling, each insisting that they were a better match for Max than some stuffy empress. Taking advantage of the renewed chaos, Max edged toward the exit. He needed time to think, to process everything that had happened, and maybe to Google how to politely turn down an all-powerful cosmic empress. As he slipped out the door and into the cool night air, Max couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. Be careful what you wish for, he muttered to himself, shaking his head with a mix of trepidation and excitement. He started the walk home. One thing was certain, his life would never be the same again. The stars above seemed to twinkle with new possibility, and for a moment, Max allowed himself to imagine the adventures that might lie ahead, ruling a galactic empire, exploring strange new worlds, and perhaps even finding true love. Then he remembered the 3-headed amoeba's attempted kiss, and he quickened his pace. He had a feeling he was going to need a good night's sleep to face whatever tomorrow might bring. As the first rays of sunlight crept through Max's bedroom window, he groaned and pulled the covers over his head. The events of the previous day felt like a bizarre dream, but the ache in his feet from hours of standing in line served as a stark reminder of reality. Computer, he mumbled, what's the latest news on the alien marriage law? His AI assistant chirped to life. Good morning, Max. The galactic marriage mandate remains in effect. However, there have been some updates. Due to the chaos at distribution centers, Earth authorities are now allowing humans to seek their own alien partners. Intergalactic travel agencies report a surge in bookings. Max sat up suddenly, wide awake. That's it, he exclaimed. I'll find my own wives. How hard can it be? 3 hours later, Max stood in the spaceport, clutching a hastily packed bag in a guidebook titled Galactic Hitchhiker's Guide to Interspecies Romance. His enthusiasm had dimmed somewhat after discovering the exorbitant cost of faster-than-light travel. Last call for budget shuttle to Zoran's Cosmic Cantina, a boorish voice announced over the PA system. Please note, life support systems are optional and not guaranteed for the entire journey. Max hesitated, then shrugged. Well, you only live once, he muttered, hurrying toward the boarding gate. The journey was, to put it mildly, memorable. Max emerged from the cramped shuttle 12 hours later, disheveled and slightly oxygen-deprived but alive. He stumbled into Zoran's Cosmic Cantina, a dingy establishment that seemed to exist in a perpetual haze of alien tobacco smoke and questionable substances. Settling onto a bar stool that pulsated uncomfortably beneath him, Max cleared his throat to catch the bartender's attention. The creature turned, revealing itself to be a shimmering jellyfish-like being with multiple tentacles working various drinks simultaneously. "What'll it be, Earthling?" the bartender burbled. Max consulted his guidebook surreptitiously. I'll have a supernova slammer." The bartender's gelatinous form rippled in what might have been amusement. "Brave choice. You sure you can handle it?" "Of course," Max said with false bravado. "I drink these all the time back on Earth." A glass materialized before him, filled with a swirling, glowing liquid that seemed to be trying to escape. Max took a deep breath and lifted the glass. "Wait," the bartender cried, but it was too late. Max took a large gulp and immediately felt as if his insides had been hit by an actual supernova. He gasped, his eyes watering, and promptly fell off his stool. As he lay on the sticky floor, wheezing, he became aware of a melodious voice above him. "Oh my, are you all right?" Max looked up to see a vision of alien loveliness. The female creature had iridescent skin that shimmered with every movement and large, almond-shaped eyes that seemed to contain entire galaxies. "I'm Max," he choked, attempting to stand and failing spectacularly. "And you are?" "I'm Zyla," she replied, helping him up with surprising strength. "You know, where I come from, collapsing at a female's feet is considered a marriage proposal." Max's eyes widened in panic. "Oh no, I didn't mean." Zyla laughed, a sound like tinkling crystals. "I'm joking. You Earthlings are so easy to tease." As Max dusted himself off, trying to salvage some dignity, he realized this might be his chance. "So, Zyla," he said, attempting a suave lean against the bar and nearly toppling again, "what's a nice alien like you doing in a place like this?" Before Zyla could respond, a booming voice interrupted, "She's waiting for her date, meatbag." Max turned to find himself face to chest with a hulking, four-armed creature whose skin appeared to be made of living stone. The alien cracked its knuckles menacingly, all 12 of them. "Right," Max squeaked. "I'll just be going then." "Lovely to meet you, Zyla. Enjoy your date with, the Rock, here." He backed away hastily, colliding with a group of smaller aliens who squeaked in indignation. "So sorry." "Sorry," he muttered, making his way to the exit. Once outside, Max consulted his guidebook again. "Okay, cosmic bars are out. What's next?" Intergalactic blind dates. That sounds safe and not at all potentially disastrous." A short hovercab ride later, Max found himself at the Galactic Matchmaking Emporium. A cheerful receptionist with 3 eyes and blue fur greeted him. "Welcome. Here for our blind date service," she chirped. Max nodded, filling out a form that asked questions like, preferred number of appendages in a partner, and, are you allergic to psychic emissions? Soon, he was ushered into a small, dimly lit room. "Your date will arrive shortly," the receptionist said with a wink of her middle eye. Max sat nervously, straightening his jacket. The door opened, and a swirling mass of pink gas floated in. "Hello," a voice echoed in his mind. "I'm Nebula." "You must be Max." Yes," Max replied, unsure whether to speak aloud or think his response. "Nice to meet you." "Oh, how delightful." Nebula exclaimed. "I've always wanted to merge consciousnesses with an Earthling. Shall we begin the bonding process?" Before Max could respond, he felt a strange tugging sensation in his mind. The room began to spin, and he had the distinct feeling that things were about to get very, very weird. The room began to spin, and Max felt a strange tugging sensation in his mind. It felt like his thoughts were being pulled out of his head and mixed with, well, pink gas. He struggled to maintain his sense of self as Nebula's consciousness enveloped his. "Oh, Max," Nebula's voice echoed inside his mind, now laced with a distinctly Max-like quality. "You have such, organized thoughts. So linear. Let's swirl them around a bit, shall we?" Before Max could protest, or even form a coherent thought, Nebula began rearranging his memories and emotions like a cosmic interior decorator. He felt his love for Earth pizza being replaced by an inexplicable craving for Xyler sludge cakes, and his fear of public speaking morphing into an overwhelming urge to recite Klingon poetry. Nebula, he managed to think, his mental voice sounding strangely echoey, I don't think this is working for me. Maybe we should just stick to small talk. Nonsense. Nebula replied, her mental voice taking on a sharper edge. True bonding requires complete and utter merging of consciousnesses. Resistance is futile. Just as Max was about to succumb to the pink gas's mental onslaught, the door to the room burst open. Standing in the doorway was Bartholomew, Bart, Higgins, a man whose rumpled suit and perpetual 5 o'clock shadow suggested he was perpetually in the middle of an existential crisis. Sorry to interrupt, Bart said, brandishing a laser pointer like a weapon, but I believe there's been a slight miscalculation. He aimed the laser pointer at Nebula, causing the pink gas to recoil slightly. According to your profile, Mr. Thompson here is highly allergic to excessive psychic emissions. You're lucky I caught this before he turned into a sentient toaster oven. Sentient toaster oven? Max thought, his mental voice now tinged with panic. Nebula, clearly deflated, retreated into a corner of the room. Well, excuse me for trying to find love, she huffed. Some of us just want to connect on a deeper level. With a final swirl of pink gas, she vanished, leaving Max gasping for air and clutching his head. You okay, buddy? Bart asked, holstering his laser pointer. I think so, Max replied, his voice trembling slightly. Who are you? Bartholomew Higgins, Bart said, extending a hand. Owner and operator of Cosmic Compatibilities. I'm here to make sure you find true love, or at least someone you can tolerate for a few decades. Cosmic Compatibilities? Max asked, bewildered. Is that like a dating service for humans and aliens? Bart grinned, revealing a set of slightly crooked teeth. You could say that. I saw an opportunity and I seized it. The Galactic Council may have forced this marriage mandate on us, but I'm going to make sure Earthlings get the best possible deal. Plus, you know, make a few credits in the process. Max frowned. But, why are you here? I thought this was the Galactic Matchmaking Emporium. Bart chuckled. Let's just say I have connections. I keep an eye on these places to make sure they're not feeding you guys to space slugs or anything. The competition can get pretty fierce. Space slugs? Max repeated, his earlier enthusiasm for alien romance rapidly evaporating. Look, Bart said, clapping Max on the shoulder, I can see you're not having much luck here. How about you come back to my office? I've got a whole database of eligible alien ladies, and I promise, no sentient pink gas. Just good old-fashioned matchmaking, with a cosmic twist. Intrigued and desperate for a less terrifying alternative, Max agreed. Bart led him out of the Galactic Matchmaking Emporium and into a sleek hover limo. As they sped through the neon-lit streets, Bart explained his business model. Cosmic Compatibilities is all about finding the perfect match, whether it's based on shared interests, genetic compatibility, or just plain old chemistry. I've got clients from all over the galaxy, from the Krill Nebula to the Outer Rim colonies. And I pride myself on providing a personalized service. No cookie-cutter matches here. Sounds impressive, Max said, still trying to process the Nebula incident. It is, Bart said with a wink. I've got algorithms that can predict compatibility across species with 99.9% accuracy. Of course, there's always that 0.1% chance of complete and utter disaster, but hey, that's what makes life interesting, right? Max gulped. Bart's office was located in a towering skyscraper overlooking the city. The interior was surprisingly cozy, with plush sofas, holographic fireplaces, and an impressive collection of alien artifacts. Bart led Max to a comfortable chair and handed him a data tablet. Alright, let's get down to business. Tell me, what are you looking for in an alien wife? Max hesitated. Well, I guess I'm looking for someone, kind, intelligent, and maybe a little adventurous. And definitely no tentacles. Bart chuckled. Good to know. And what are your deal breakers? Any specific phobias or preferences? I'm not a big fan of slime, Max admitted. And I'm definitely not interested in anyone who wants to merge consciousnesses. Bart nodded, tapping away at the data tablet. Alright, I think I have a few candidates who might be a good fit. How about Lyra, a Xylosian astrophysicist with a passion for Earth poetry? Or maybe Zara, a Krillian diplomat with a fondness for human music? Or perhaps Fiona, a Glarbian botanist who specializes in interspecies pollination? Max scrolled through the profiles, each more bizarre and fascinating than the last. Lyra had shimmering, crystalline skin and could communicate through telepathic sonnets. Zara had iridescent wings and a talent for translating complex alien languages into catchy pop tunes. Fiona had bioluminescent hair and could grow plants in zero gravity. They all sound amazing, Max said, feeling a flicker of his earlier excitement. But how do I choose? That's where I come in, Bart said, grinning. I'll set up a series of virtual dates, so you can get to know each candidate without any physical risk. We'll use holographic projections, so you can interact with them in a simulated environment. It's the next best thing to being there. Over the next few days, Max embarked on a whirlwind of virtual dates. He discussed astrophysics with Lyra while floating among the rings of Saturn. He danced to alien pop tunes with Zara in a simulated Krillian nightclub. And he helped Fiona pollinate intergalactic flowers in a zero-gravity garden. He found himself genuinely enjoying the experience. Each alien woman was intelligent, funny, and surprisingly relatable, despite their vastly different backgrounds and appearances. He began to realize that maybe, just maybe, this whole alien marriage mandate thing wasn't such a bad idea after all. But as Max's dating life blossomed, Bart's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He started working longer hours, his 5 o'clock shadow deepened, and he muttered constantly about conspiracies and government cover-ups. One evening, as Max was preparing for a virtual date with Fiona, Bart burst into the room, his eyes wild with urgency. Max, I need to show you something, he said, grabbing Max's arm. It's about the marriage mandate. It's not what you think it is. Bart dragged Max into his office and slammed a data chip into his computer. A series of encrypted files flashed across the screen, revealing a complex web of genetic data, scientific reports, and classified memos. What is all this? Max asked, his brow furrowed. This, Bart said, his voice low and conspiratorial, is the truth behind the marriage mandate. It's not about promoting interspecies harmony. It's about something far more sinister. He pointed to a diagram depicting the genetic structure of various alien species. See these genetic markers? They're deteriorating. Many of these species are on the verge of extinction. The Galactic Council is using the marriage mandate as a cover for a massive genetic experiment. They're hoping that by crossbreeding with humans, they can revitalize their gene pools and save their species. Max stared at the screen in disbelief. You're saying, they're using us as breeding stock? Exactly, Bart said grimly. And what's worse, they're not being honest about it. They're manipulating the matchmaking process to ensure the most genetically compatible pairings, regardless of personal preferences. That's why they're pushing this whole two wives thing. It's all about maximizing genetic diversity. Max felt a surge of anger. That's outrageous. We're not lab rats. We're people. I know, Bart said, his voice filled with frustration. And I'm going to expose them. I've been gathering evidence for months, and I'm ready to go public. But I need your help. My help? Max asked, surprised. What can I do? You're the perfect pawn, Bart said, a strange glint in his eye. You're an average guy, chosen by an empress. If you speak out against the mandate, people will listen. You can be the face of the resistance. Max hesitated. He had never considered himself a revolutionary. He was just a guy who wanted to find love and maybe escape the monotony of his earthly existence. But the thought of being used as a pawn in a galactic genetic experiment was too much to bear. All right, he said, his voice firm. I'm in. What do we do? Bart grinned, his eyes shining with excitement. First, we need to get the word out. I've got contacts in the media, both human and alien, who are willing to listen. We'll leak this information to the public and let them decide for themselves. But we need to be careful. The Galactic Council won't let us do this without a fight. As Max and Bart began to plot their rebellion, a sense of purpose filled Max's heart. He was no longer just a lonely earthling looking for love. He was a freedom fighter, a rebel against the system, a champion of human rights. And he was ready to do whatever it took to expose the truth and bring down the Galactic Council. Their actions would soon spark a chain of events that would shake the foundations of intergalactic society and change the course of history forever. The news of Max and Bart's planned exposé spread quickly, reaching not only the eager ears of intergalactic media but also the clandestine networks of the Galactic Council. While Max prepared for his public announcement, another Earthling found herself caught in the Council's web of genetic manipulation, Penelope "Penny" Davies, a botanist with a passion for preserving Earth's flora. Penny worked at a secluded research facility nestled in the Amazon rainforest, far from the prying eyes of the public. Her days were spent studying exotic plants, cataloging their properties, and tirelessly advocating for their conservation. She was a woman of science, grounded in reality, and utterly oblivious to the cosmic drama unfolding light years away. One sweltering afternoon, as Penny meticulously examined a rare orchid, the facility was suddenly surrounded by a fleet of sleek, black spacecraft. Before she could react, a team of heavily armed aliens stormed into the lab, their faces hidden behind opaque visors. Penelope Davies, you are hereby detained by order of the Galactic Council, the lead alien barked, his voice distorted by a vocoder. You will come with us. Penny, never one to back down from a challenge, stood her ground. On what charges? I haven't broken any laws, galactic or otherwise. Your expertise is required for a matter of utmost importance, the alien replied, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. Resistance is futile. Before Penny could mount a proper protest, she was tranquilized and whisked away to a waiting spacecraft. When she awoke, she found herself in a sterile, dimly lit cell aboard a vessel hurtling through the inky blackness of space. Panic surged through her as she tried to piece together what had happened. Why was she kidnapped? What did the Galactic Council want with her? And most importantly, how could she escape? Days turned into weeks as the spacecraft continued its relentless journey. Penny spent her time observing her captors, studying their routines, and searching for any weakness in their security. She quickly realized that the aliens were not particularly intelligent, relying more on brute force than cunning. One evening, while the guards were distracted by a game of intergalactic poker, Penny managed to pry open the lock on her cell with a hairpin she had cleverly concealed in her hair. She slipped out of the cell and crept through the dimly lit corridors, her heart pounding in her chest. She soon discovered that the spacecraft was headed toward a dying planet shrouded in a perpetual dust storm. The atmosphere was thin and toxic, and the landscape was barren and desolate. It was a far cry from the lush rainforest she called home. As she peered through a viewport, she overheard a conversation between two of the alien guards. The High Council will be pleased, one of them said. With the Earth botanist's expertise, we may yet be able to restore life to Xylos. But is it worth it? The other guard replied. The genetic experiments are risky, and the humans are becoming increasingly rebellious. Genetic experiments? The words sent a chill down Penny's spine. She suddenly realized that her abduction was connected to the marriage mandate and the Galactic Council's sinister plan. She continued to eavesdrop, piecing together the truth. The planet Xylos was once a thriving paradise, but centuries of environmental mismanagement and genetic degradation had left it on the brink of collapse. The Galactic Council, desperate to save Xylos, had devised a plan to use Earth's genetic resources to revitalize the planet's ecosystem. Penny was not just a botanist, she was a key ingredient in their genetic experiment. Her knowledge of Earth plants, combined with her unique genetic makeup, would be used to create a hybrid species capable of surviving on Xylos's harsh environment. Horrified by this revelation, Penny knew she had to escape and expose the Council's plan to the galaxy. She found her way to the ship's cargo hold, where she discovered a small, single-person escape pod. It was her only chance. As she prepared the escape pod for launch, she was confronted by the lead alien guard. "You cannot escape, Earthling," he growled, raising his weapon. "Your destiny is to save Xylos." Penny refused to be intimidated. "My destiny is to protect Earth," she retorted, "and to expose your lies to the galaxy." With a swift move, she activated the escape pod's launch sequence, sending them both hurtling into the vastness of space. The lead alien, caught off guard, was thrown against the wall, his weapon clattering to the floor. Penny piloted the escape pod toward the nearest space station, determined to warn the galaxy about the Galactic Council's insidious plan. She knew that the fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, rested on her shoulders. Meanwhile, on Earth, Max and Bart prepared for their public announcement. They had gathered a coalition of human and alien activists who were ready to fight for their freedom. They knew that the Galactic Council would stop at nothing to silence them, but they were determined to expose the truth, no matter the cost. As Max stood before the assembled crowd, ready to deliver his speech, he received a coded message from an unknown source. It was Penny, transmitting from a remote space station. "The Galactic Council is using the marriage mandate for genetic experiments," she said, her voice crackling with static. "They're planning to exploit Earth's resources and manipulate our genes. You have to stop them." Max's heart sank as he realized the full extent of the Council's treachery. He knew that he and Bart had to act fast, before it was too late. "Friends," he said, his voice resonating with newfound conviction, "we have just learned that the Galactic Council is not only forcing us into unwanted marriages, but they are also using us as pawns in a dangerous genetic experiment. We cannot allow this to continue. We must fight for our freedom, for our planet, and for our future." With those words, Max launched a rebellion that would challenge the very foundations of the Galactic Council and ignite a spark of hope in a galaxy consumed by darkness. As Max rallied support on Earth, and Penny fought for survival in the depths of space, news of the Galactic Council's treachery reached Rico Alvarez, a former military strategist known for his sharp mind and unwavering loyalty. Rico had retired from active service years ago, disillusioned by the Council's bureaucratic ineptitude and moral bankruptcy. He now lived a quiet life as a mechanic in a small lunar colony, tinkering with engines and trying to forget the horrors he had witnessed during his time in the military. But the revelation of the Council's genetic experiments reignited the fire in his belly. He couldn't stand idly by while innocent humans were being used as breeding stock. He knew he had to take action, even if it meant risking everything he had worked to build. Rico began by reaching out to his old contacts in the military, discreetly sounding them out about their feelings toward the Council. He quickly discovered that many of them shared his discontent, harboring resentment for the Council's corruption and incompetence. He organized a secret meeting in a hidden hangar on the moon, inviting a select group of trusted officers and soldiers. As they gathered in the dimly lit space, Rico laid out his plan. "The Galactic Council has betrayed us," he said, his voice resonating with righteous anger. "They have turned their backs on the values we swore to uphold. They are using humans as pawns in a twisted genetic experiment, and they will stop at nothing to achieve their goals. We cannot allow this to continue. We must fight back." His words were met with a mixture of skepticism and enthusiasm. Some officers were hesitant to defy the council, fearing the consequences of insubordination. Others were eager to join the rebellion, ready to strike a blow for freedom and justice. "What do you propose we do, Rico?" asked Commander Eva Rostova, a seasoned officer known for her strategic brilliance. "We can't simply attack the council headquarters. They have too much power. We need to strike at their weak points," Rico replied. "We need to disrupt their operations, expose their lies, and rally support from across the galaxy. We need to launch a rebellion that they cannot ignore." He outlined a daring plan to sabotage the Council's genetic research facilities, disrupt their supply lines, and leak incriminating information to the media. He also proposed forming alliances with other oppressed species who had suffered under the Council's rule. "This will not be easy," Rico warned. "We will face fierce resistance, and we will suffer losses. But if we stand together, if we fight with courage and conviction, we can win. We can overthrow the corrupt council and build a better future for ourselves and for all the species of the galaxy." Inspired by Rico's leadership, the officers and soldiers pledged their support to the rebellion. They formed a secret organization called the Galactic Liberation Front, GLF, dedicated to overthrowing the Galactic Council and establishing a new era of freedom and justice. Rico and Eva worked tirelessly to organize the GLF, recruiting new members, gathering resources, and planning their first strike. They knew that they were facing a formidable enemy, but they were determined to fight for what they believed in. Meanwhile, on Xylos, Penny continued her desperate struggle for survival. She had managed to reach a small mining colony on the outskirts of the planet, where she found refuge among a group of disgruntled Xylosian workers. The workers, who had long been exploited by the Galactic Council, were sympathetic to Penny's plight. They provided her with food, shelter, and information about the Council's operations on Xylos. Penny learned that the Council was using the mining colony as a base for their genetic research. They were experimenting on the local flora and fauna, trying to create a hybrid species that could thrive in the planet's toxic environment. Determined to sabotage the Council's efforts, Penny joined forces with the Xylosian workers. Together, they planned a daring raid on the Council's research facility, hoping to destroy the genetic samples and expose the Council's crimes. As Penny and the Xylosian workers prepared for their attack, Rico and Eva launched their first strike against the Galactic Council. They targeted a key supply depot on a remote asteroid, disrupting the Council's flow of resources and sending a clear message that the rebellion had begun. The Council responded swiftly and decisively, deploying their military forces to quell the uprising. But Rico and Eva were prepared for their counterattack, leading the GLF on a series of hit-and-run raids that kept the Council forces off balance. The galaxy was plunged into chaos as the rebellion spread like wildfire. Planets and systems declared their allegiance to the GLF, while others remained loyal to the Galactic Council. The stage was set for an epic showdown that would determine the fate of the galaxy. In the midst of the turmoil, Max continued to use his newfound fame to rally support for the rebellion. He traveled from planet to planet, delivering impassioned speeches that inspired hope and courage in the hearts of the oppressed. He also reached out to Empress Sonara, hoping to convince her to join their cause. He knew that her influence and power could turn the tide of the war. But Sonara remained silent, torn between her loyalty to the Galactic Council and her growing sympathy for the rebels. She knew that the Council was corrupt, but she also feared the consequences of defying them. As the war raged on, Max, Penny, Rico, and Eva found themselves on a collision course, their destinies intertwined in the struggle for freedom and justice. They were the unlikely heroes of a galaxy on the brink of collapse, and they were ready to fight to the end. The war between the Galactic Liberation Front and the Galactic Council raged across the cosmos, consuming planets and shattering alliances. Max, Penny, and Rico, each leading their own fronts, found themselves drawing closer to a final confrontation. Empress Sonara, watching from her palace, realized she could no longer remain neutral. The galaxy she was sworn to protect was tearing itself apart, and the Council's corruption was at the heart of it. Max, after weeks of trying, finally received a private communication from Zanara. Her holographic image flickered onto his makeshift command center, her face etched with a mixture of regret and determination. "Max," she began, her voice somber, "I have been watching the events unfolding across the galaxy. I have seen the suffering caused by the Council's actions, and I can no longer stand idly by. I believe you deserve the truth." Max leaned forward, his heart pounding with anticipation. "What truth, Your Highness?" "The Galactic Council," Zanara explained, "is not the benevolent organization it pretends to be. It has become corrupted by greed and power, prioritizing its own interests over the well-being of the galaxy. The marriage mandate was initially conceived as a way to foster understanding and cooperation between species. However, it has been twisted into a tool for genetic manipulation, as you now know." She paused, her eyes filled with sadness. "I was naive. I believed in the Council's vision, and I allowed myself to be used. But I have learned from my mistakes, and I am ready to make amends." "What will you do?" Max asked, his voice filled with hope. "I will expose the Council's corruption to the galaxy," Zanara declared. "I will use my influence and my resources to support the Galactic Liberation Front. And I will help you build a better future for all species." With Zanara's support, the tide of the war began to turn. The GLF gained access to advanced technology, strategic intelligence, and crucial alliances. Planets that had previously hesitated to join the rebellion now flocked to their banner. Rico, with his military expertise, orchestrated a series of decisive victories against the Council forces, liberating key territories and disrupting their supply lines. Penny, using her botanical knowledge, developed a method to neutralize the toxic atmosphere on Xylos, allowing the planet to begin its recovery. Max, inspired by Zanara's courage, continued to rally support across the galaxy, spreading a message of hope and unity. He became a symbol of the rebellion, a beacon of light in the darkness. As the GLF closed in on the Galactic Council's headquarters, a massive space station orbiting a dying star, Zanara prepared to confront the Council leaders. She knew that they would not surrender easily, and that a bloody battle was inevitable. The final assault on the space station was a brutal and chaotic affair. Rico led a squadron of starfighters through a gauntlet of enemy fire, while Penny and her Xylosian allies infiltrated the station's defenses. Max, accompanied by Zanara, led a ground team to the Council chambers. Inside the chambers, they found the Council leaders huddled together, their faces contorted with fear and desperation. They tried to negotiate, to bribe, to threaten, but Zanara stood firm. "Your reign of terror is over," she declared, her voice filled with righteous anger. "You have betrayed the trust of the galaxy, and you will be held accountable for your crimes." The Council leaders, realizing that they were defeated, unleashed a final act of desperation. They activated the station's self-destruct sequence, hoping to destroy the GLF forces and plunge the galaxy into chaos. But Zanara was prepared. Using her powers, she deactivated the self-destruct sequence and seized control of the station. The Council leaders were arrested and taken into custody, awaiting trial for their crimes. With the Galactic Council overthrown, a new era dawned for the galaxy. Zanara, with the support of Max, Penny, and Rico, established a new galactic federation, based on the principles of freedom, justice, and equality. The marriage mandate was abolished, and species were free to choose their own partners, regardless of their genetic compatibility. The genetic research facilities were shut down, and resources were redirected to environmental restoration and social programs. Xylos began its long and arduous recovery, thanks to Penny's tireless efforts. Rico returned to his quiet life on the moon, content with the knowledge that he had played a part in saving the galaxy. Max, having found love and purpose in the midst of the rebellion, remained by Zanara's side, helping her to lead the Galactic Federation. They ruled together, not as empress and consort, but as partners, equals, and friends. As the galaxy healed and rebuilt, the story of the intergalactic marriage mandate became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of corruption, oppression, and genetic manipulation. But it also became a story of hope, a testament to the power of courage, unity, and love. And so, the galaxy entered a new age of peace and prosperity, guided by the wisdom of its unlikely heroes, Max, the ordinary Earthling, Penny, the passionate botanist, Rico, the disillusioned strategist, and Zanara, the reformed empress. Together, they had saved the galaxy and created a better future for all.